Good day, everyone. My name is Monica Ionia, and I am the first presenter in this case study. So I will be presenting to you the introduction of this case study. In today's globalized world, bilingualism has become increasingly common, particularly among students in multicultural environments. Code switching, which is the practice of alternating between two or more languages or dialects within a conversation, plays a crucial role in this linguistic landscape. This case study will focus on the bilingual AB English students, aiming to uncover the motivations behind their code switching practices and how these practices shape their language proficiency and social interaction.
A pleasant day to our dear instructor, Mr. Ephraim Lagari. Good day, sir. By the way, I am Sherlyn De La Ronal, the assigned discussant for the research objective. So, bilingual AB language students frequently engage in code switching as they navigate academic and social settings. However, the ways in which this linguistic practice reflects and shapes their personal and academic identities are not well understood. So, this study aims to explore how these students use code switching to express, construct, and negotiate their academic and personal identities in various social and educational contexts. Specifically, this study aims to address the following questions. For research question 1, how do AB English language students who are bilingual use code switching to construct and express their academic and personal identities? So, this question examines how students manage language choices in both formal, specifically in academic setting, and informal or in personal or social settings. So, it is highly relevant to English majors for navigating dual language environments. And for our research question 2, what are the perceived functions and social implications of code switching among bilingual AB English language students in their daily communication? So this question explains or explores rather how students' understanding of when and why they code switch and how it affects their relationships, classroom participation, and sense of identity. Overall, these two research questions are valuable because we directly address the aim of our case study and how language, specifically code switching, reflect and shapes identity among bilingual AB English language students.
Good day, I'm Adrian Lavidan, and today I will be presenting the review of related literature. In our review of related literature, we focus on code switching, which is when someone alternates between two or more language or dialects within a conversation, sentence, or even just a phrase. This behavior is very common among bilingual or multilingual speakers, and it is being widely studied across different fields. First, we look at psychological perspectives. Researchers found that code switching reflects a person's cognitive ability to manage multiple languages. It often shows how flexible and adaptable the speaker is when it comes to language use. It also used to express emotions or identity, especially when a speaker feels more connected to a certain language in certain situations. Next, we explore the social linguistic side of code switching. This area studies how language works in social contexts. Many studies have shown that code switching isn't random, isn't actually very meaningful. People switch languages depends on who they're talking to, what the situation is, or what message they want to send. When we look in its role in education, particularly in bilingual and multilingual classrooms, research shows that code switching can actually help students understand lesson better. It can make difficult content easy to grasp, especially when students are more comfortable with their first language. It can also reduce stress or pressure when learning a second language because they can rely on what they already know. But code switching isn't always seems as positive. Some educator agrees that if students switch too much between languages, they might not fully learn the structure and fluency of the target language. Teachers might also struggle when deciding when to allow it and when to stick strictly to the language of instruction. Overall, the literature shows that code switching has both strengths and weaknesses. It clearly a nature part of communication for bilinguals, and when used thoughtfully, it can support learning, but at the same time, it can has to be managed carefully in the classroom to avoid overdependence of the first language.
Hello, I'm Chloe Tumulak and I will discuss the theoretical framework. So for our theoretical framework, we use three main theories to help us understand code switching among AB English students. First, we have Goffman's self-presentation theory, which explains how people manage the way others see them. In our case, students may switch languages depending on who they're talking to, for example, using English in class to appear more formal or intelligent, and shifting to Tagalog with friends to more relaxed or relatable. Next is Bourdieu's concepts of linguistic capital. This talks about how certain ways of speaking can have more value in society. For example, being fluent in English is often seen as a sign of education or professionalism. So students might use English to gain respect or show status in academic or work-related situations. Lastly is we use the communication accommodation theory, or CAT. This theory helps explain why people change the way they speak to match the distance themselves from others. So when students code switch, it can be a way to fit in with a group or to stand out depending on the context. Overall, this series help us see the code switching isn't just a random. It's actually a powerful and meaningful way for students to express identity, adapt to different situations, and communicate effectively.
Good day, everyone. I'm May and Kalyao, and this time I will be going to discuss our methodology in our case study. So, our study employs a qualitative approach utilizing semi-structured interviews with bilingual AB English students and classroom observations. Participants will be selected based on their proficiency in both English and their native language, so ensuring a diverse representation of experiences. So data will be analyzed thematically to identify key patterns and insight related to code switchings. And that would be all. Thank you.
So good day everyone, my name is Mike Adrian D. Molos and I will discuss the findings of our case study, the title case study on code switching among bilingual EB English students, which is there are three findings. So the first is the switching based on the context, and the second is per influence on language choice, and last is the emotional expression and emphasis. The first, switch based on the context. So switching based on the context, language choice varies significantly between different environments. For instance, individuals often use English in academic settings to align formal expectations and communicate effectively with the first and the teachers, while opting the Tagalog at home to the communication. In the second, the per influence on language choice. So the choice of language is heavily influenced by the social circles. In a group settings, individuals may switch to English to fit with the friends or peers who predominantly speak that language, which is the English. So highlighting the social dynamics that affect the language use. The emotional expression and emphasis, the language switching can serve as a tool to emotional expression. So can serve expression. Individuals may unconsciously switch to the English when they feel excited or passionate. So using the language they associate with heightened emotions to convey intensive, and they use to see for example, contextual switching. So example, I speak English during class, but at home it always Tagalog. So this illustrate how the speaker, or in the example, this illustrate how the speaker or consciously adapts their language based on the environment, or the enforcing the distinction between the formal settings and the informal settings. In the second example is the unconscious switching. So when I get excited, I switch to English without noticing. So in this example, demonstrate the instinctual use of language used as a means of expressing the emotions, suggesting that emotional states can trigger automatic language to shifts. And the preliminary findings of our case study suggest that code switching serves various functions, including the ease of communication, identify expressions, and fostering social connections. But the implication of these findings are teaching practices and curriculum development will also be discussed.
Good day everyone, my name is Devers Ramos and now let's proceed to the analysis. The diagram illustrates how different social linguistic theories help explain the relationship between code switching and identity information. Joffman, self-presentation theory or dramaturgical model, Irving Joffman likens social interactions to a theatrical performance where individuals present themselves in ways that suit specific contexts. In this framework, code switching becomes a tool of self-presentation for bilingual AB English students. Shifting them between languages allows them to adapt their persona to suit different audiences. Using English in formal or academic settings projects the image of a serious, competent student, reverting to their native language with friends or family signals intimacy, informality, or cultural solidarity. These conscious adaptations help students perform different identities, students, peer, or family member, depending on the social setting. In Bourdieu linguistic capital and social fields, Pierre Bourdieu views language not just as a communication, but as a form of symbolic capital, a resource that can be invested to gain power, respect, or status in different social field. Example, schools, home, and community. Certain forms of language have more value. Students code switch to strategically spend their linguistic capital. English may have higher prestige in academic or institutional spaces, so students use it to gain authority or legitimacy. Their native code switching is not random, but a deliberate negotiation of power, status, and identity across contexts. So now, code switching, the central mechanism. At the heart of this framework is code switching itself, which functions as a behavioral bridge between these social linguistic theories. It reflects both external pressures, expectations, norms, hierarchies, and internal choices, identity, comfort, and goals. Students aren't just reacting, they're actively shaping how they are seen, using language as a flexible expressive tool. So now, in identity formation, or the outcome, the practice of code switching contributes directly to how students construct, negotiate, and express their identities. So belonging, switching to a native language around family or friends reinforces group memberships and shared culture. Social rules switching aligns with the different hats students wear: scholarly, social, formal, personal expressions. Through switching, students convey humor, irony, emotion, or subtitle meanings that may not translate directly across languages. So in summary, the diagram illustrates that code switching is not merely a linguistic phenomenon, it's a social strategy. Jobman explains how students manage impressions. Bourdieu explains how they navigate social value and status. Switching ties this together, becoming the means by which identity is performed, negotiated, and affirmed in everyday life. As students engage in this linguistic practice, they shape who they are and how they are perceived, not just passively, but with agency and intentions. And that would be all. Thank you for your listening.
Hi everyone, I'm Malcolm Ancero and I will discuss the implications of our study. Educational, promote inclusivity in multilingual classrooms. Schools should make sure all students feel included no matter what language they speak. Sociocultural, validate bilingual experiences and identities. It's important to recognize and respect people who speak more than one language as part of who they are. Future research explores multilingualism in digital communication and multimodal context. Now, we should study how people use multiple languages when they communicate or through different types of media like videos, pictures, and or text together. That's all.
Hello everyone, my name is Christina Marie Aralpesa. So here is the conclusion of our case study, or the findings of our case study, which is the bilingual youth use code switching intentionally and meaningfully. So the next one is language choice reflects identity, belonging, and adaptability. So code switching is not deficit, but it is a rich dynamic and form of communication. So additionally, it's highlight the significance role of code switching shaping and expressing the identities of or as every English student through their flexible use of multiple languages. So the student navigate diverse social contexts, establish group belonging, and assert both cultural and academic identities. So rather than that, it indicated linguistic deficiency. True code switching emerged as a strategic and dynamic communication tool. So in this conclusion, it reflects that the student multilingual competence and the ability to adapt language use according to purpose, audience, and also the settings. So ultimately, Through this case study, it demonstrates that language and identity are deeply interconnected, with code switching serving as a key mechanism for identity, negotiation, and self-expression in multilingual academic environments. So that's the conclusion or the summary of the findings through in our case study.
Good day everyone, my name is Charlene Pidivera from Group 7. My assigned part is the references. These are